The House of Mystery presents Inside Writing, the radio show where authors discuss their writing process in all genres.
Good evening and welcome to the Julie Sav Show this evening. So after another long day, here I am finding myself humbly interviewing Steve DiSchiavi from the TV's Dead Files. And this is a series now that is going out in the UK on a Thursday evening on the Really TV channel. So for those of you in the UK who are listening, we all know that night on Really is a bit of a paranormal night. And whilst this programme isn't truly paranormal in the sense of programmes like Most Haunted, for example, it really does lead us to question the validity of mediumship and investigating the accuracy of it. And having watched a few of these episodes, Steve, it's an amazingly well-formatted show. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Julie. I appreciate you guys taking the time to have me on.
What's really intriguing about you, Steve, from my perspective as a medium, is that, as far as I'm aware, you worked within the New York Police Department for 21 years.
Correct.
And you're not a medium. And your show is not about debunking or validating mediumship, but it's looking at how two investigations can work side by side and then looking at the information that you get as a result.
Yeah, I mean, I could. When people ask me what kind of a show I'm on, I tell them it's a docudrama. It's really a documentary with dramatic overtones. Obviously, the paranormal plays a big part in it. I do a pragmatic investigation, and for me, I'm a retired homicide detective, so I look at this case as, all right, I have a case where the victims are our clients, and the perpetrators, the paranormal.
Yeah.
And that's how I approach it. And instead of me using a computer or snitches on the street or interrogating people that are, that may be perpetrators, I use Amy Allan, who's a physical medium, and she's part of the investigation. She does her thing, which I can't do, obviously, and both our talents come together, and we work separately, which makes it a lot more interesting because I have no idea what she's uncovering, and she has no idea what I'm doing. She doesn't even know the location she's going to. She knows the airport, but she doesn't know the location at all.
Right.
So we could fly into Nashville and then drive 3 hours to a location. And we never stay in the town that we're filming in. So she doesn't even get a hint that way. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah,
brilliant. And I think when what impresses me so much about it is that in the UK we have 1,000,001 paranormal investigation groups, and they will go out and do an investigation, usually quite ill-informed, or only on the back of there's been activity reported here, therefore we're going to go all night and shout out in corridors.
All right.
And the paranormal team that I have, and I know of a handful of very good paranormal teams here in the UK, will do all the investigating first before they even consider the paranormal aspect. So in some ways very similar to how yourself and Amy do that. But we would do the groundwork, the investigating, your element, if you like, before we even step foot in the house.
Well, that's a smart way of doing it. I don't know how many. I mean, we've done 112 investigations now, and I can't tell you how many times I've talked to clients and asked them. I always ask, have you had any paranormal groups come in? And there's a lot of reputable groups out there, as you well know, like yourself and people you're aware of. But a lot of them are out there just to get their own jollies off. And they'll come in, and they'll do their thing, scream and yell. They don't tell them what's going on. They say, oh, your house is haunted. They leave. And these people are left with even worse paranormal problems than they had before.
Quite scary.
Yeah, and, when I got approached to do the show, I didn't want to do it, obviously, because I'm not a paranormal guy. And I had bad experiences. I had used a couple of psychics on homicide cases I had in the NYPD, and it led me nowhere. And I just didn't have the right psychics to work with, basically.
Yeah.
So when I met Amy and the 4 of the female mediums that they were trying to figure out who would be best for the show, when we did the pilot, when I saw what she was capable of, I was just kind of blown away. So, for me, it was like, okay, I'll do the show, but we got to do it where I have nothing to do with the paranormal part of it.
Yeah.
And when we,
so did you
when we
believe
came up
in
with
the paranormal? Did you believe in mediums before you did the show?
I'm a open-minded skeptic, more on the skeptic side. I'm more skeptical of people than I am of life after death. And, I do believe that once you die, something happens.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens because nobody's ever come back and told us what's going on the other side. But, I do believe that once we die, I was raised Roman Catholic, and, it's no such thing as ghosts. You either go to hell or you go to heaven, or if you're bad, you spend some time in purgatory, and then, you move on. But, as you get older and you get a little bit wiser, you say to yourself, well, listen, there's a lot more going on than what everybody, what's being forced down your throat, so to speak, as a child. So I'm just open-minded to the fact that, I believe that, we're built of energy, and this energy goes somewhere. I think everybody's got a soul, and so I'm open-minded that way. I'm just a skeptic of people and what they say and what they say they're capable of.
Absolutely. And there's absolutely no harm in that, is there? And I think everybody should be very cautious when approaching anybody who says that I'm a medium or a psychic, etc. We have to make sure that person is good, bona fide, and they're able to actually do what they say they can. And a lot of people, as you know, will just take money off people and give them readings that mean nothing at all.
Yeah, and that's the sad part, because what'll happen, it's like one cop shoots an unarmed kid, every cop's bad. So
exactly.
It's the same thing. You have people out there that have legitimate abilities, but then you have the people out there that are just scam artists, and what do? They wind up just making it bad for the legitimate people, and it's kind of sad.
So is there anything in the 21 years that you served in the NYPD, is there anything that you can say that you experienced that kind of moved you from being less believing to more open-minded?
No, nothing on the NYPD. I've just been that way my entire life. I've always just been an open-minded type of guy. Nothing on the streets that I worked ever changed my mind one way or the other. I did lose my faith in a God, because if there is a God, he's got a lot of goddamn explaining to do, just by the stuff I've seen. So it's hard for me. I kind of lost my faith in the sense of, if there is such a thing as a higher power and there's angels and all this other stuff, well, why do things happen that I've seen?
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine that there is a God when you see the atrocities that humans do to each other that I've seen, and you get jaded. So that changed for me on the NYPD. Not so much any one single experience that I believe in the paranormal or not.
So how do you think? Because psychics over here, wouldn't be used overtly that I know of in the police at all, and I'm sure it must happen. I remember some time ago now. I was sat at home. I'm a social worker by profession, and have worked with children in child protection for the last 16 years. And I was sat at home one day. I'd just come back from a court hearing, and there was a police car on the drive, and I thought that was a bit unusual. And this chap came to the door, this police officer, and he said, I was chatting about the paranormal in the staff room at work, and somebody said I should come up and talk to you about it. And so my name had obviously sort of been bandied around in the police station, and he said, I'd quite like to join your paranormal group. And I thought, wow, that was a brave move to take it from the police station, then to come out and see me just on the. He'd obviously got an address just literally off of the internet almost. I thought that was a very brave move. And he said actually there's a lot of people in his particular department that are very much believers and experience things on a day-to-day basis that makes them question faith. And you know, he's still very much a huge part of my life and the paranormal world that I work within. But he was, I think it took quite a lot for him to do that. Just to turn up.
Yeah, it takes a lot of guts. Yeah, I mean, it's basically frowned upon. You know, it's a whole macho thing. It's a whole, you know, if you believe in ghosts, you know, there's something wrong with you, or, you're one of those weird people that believes in this and that.
Yeah.
So for cops to open up and say, "Oh, I definitely believe," everybody's, you know, it's a macho men's club where everybody's gonna look at you like you're crazy. I've never ever once had an experience at all, and the chance of me having one probably will never happen. But it doesn't mean I don't believe that things are going on. But for cop to come forward like that, it does take a lot of guts, because you're gonna get ridiculed, you're gonna get, you know, razzed at work.
Yeah.
But I did find that I interview a lot of policemen and a lot of detectives, a lot of chief of police on the show, because whenever there's a murder investigation that I want to look into, I reach out to these guys. And I think because, you know, as a former homicide detective from New York City, they're saying to themselves, well, if this guy could buy into it, I guess I can. So that helps a little bit with that. But most police agencies just look at you like you're crazy. You know, first of all, it's not admissible in court. Anything that you get from a psychic can't be used in court. God forbid, the defense attorney finds out you got some information from a psychic, and that's how you're going to be laughed out of the courthouse. So there's that aspect of it as well. But it's, you know, there's nothing wrong with. It's like a hobby for a lot of cops, as far as I know. Is, you know, they love the paranormal, and they're into what they can find out. It's not that there's something wrong with them. It's just everybody has their thing. Some guys bowl, some guys golf. You know, everybody has their thing. But I think you're right, though. It took that guy a lot of guts for him to come forward like that.
Having, you know, 21 years in the department, and then doing what you've been doing now, we're in the 7th series, is it, of Dead Files?
The 8th season is airing right now, and there's 13 episodes a season. So the 8th season is airing. Hopefully season 9 will start airing in August, and we've got picked up again, so we'll be filming season 10 hopefully in another, you know, probably within 2 months. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's, you know, well done to all of you. How do your ex-colleagues view you now?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, and it's actually a good question. No, my close friends will always break my chops and say, you know, you drink the Kool-Aid. We know you don't believe this crap, and I tell them, listen, she's the real deal. Talking about Amy, and they're like, bull, and I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Spend a few days with her, do what I do, and then tell me she's full of it.
Mm.
And of course they just know me, and they're like, you know, I can't. You believe her? I'm like, yeah, I do. You know, she's legit. But they also know I would never jeopardize my reputation or my integrity to do a TV show that's not legit or work with somebody that's not legit. I only worked with the best people in the police department, and I wasn't going to change that just to be on television. It's not like I'm making life-changing money doing the Dead Files. Trust me. So it's not really, and it's not like I got a yacht and a plane waiting for me. It's you know, I'm making a living, and that's about it. But I enjoy what I do. You know, I get to help people in a different way than I did before. But you know, you'll get the naysayers no matter what. 'Cause that's how cops are in general. But for the most part, everybody's they're proud of what I'm doing, and they're supportive.
Fantastic, and because that's how it should be. Because ultimately, you are doing exactly what you have always been doing, which is investigating and evidence collecting. And then
exactly, yeah.
And just for the sake of people who haven't had the opportunity to watch the Dead Files, you go into a property first and you will make sure there is nothing there that Amy can read from or cold read from when she enters the property. So you will cover up anything in that property that might allow Amy to pick up on physical, visual clues.
Actually, that's Amy's ex-husband, Matt, that films her. He does all that
Right.
work.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't do anything to do with Amy and what her process is. I'm not involved with at all except for the reveal.
Right. Okay.
Matt's her ex-husband, but they still work together. He knows exactly what needs to be covered. Like, he's done these investigations with her before the show started.
Yeah.
And that's her process. So, and I think it makes for a lot more legitimacy towards her abilities. She doesn't want anything that might change or sway her way of thinking. So it's pretty, we do our best to try to make things as legitimate as far as for the audience to understand. Listen, this is how we do it. There's no, we don't try to fit a round peg into a square hole. You know what I mean? We don't do that.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. When I'm on stage, people will say, I will warn people right at the beginning of my show that actually I won't be looking at them. And I say, it's not because I can't make eye contact. It's because I don't want to be picking up on any visual facial expression that you make. And for me to be able to do a reading, I prefer to look at something that's quite plain. So I tend to look above people at a blank wall so that I cannot pick up on, because we all react physically, even if we try not to information being given to us. So, of course, by looking away from somebody, it just gives me a clearer head.
Right. I mean, so your process is basically the same then.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you don't want to be reading. I mean, you don't want to be picking up. And I think when you're a medium, information comes in and you know that information. And it can be really difficult for us to just say the information as we get it. Sometimes we put a spin on it because we're trying to make sense of it ourselves when we shouldn't be. So then if you've got information that then doesn't fit with your surroundings, or you look at somebody and they're looking a little bit uneasy with what you're saying, you're more likely to humanize that information, is how I would describe it. So I always find it better to not have that at all. So I don't like doing readings in people's houses. That would be the first thing. I wouldn't want that at all. And if I go to a paranormal investigation, I wouldn't want to know anything before, and I really wouldn't want anything around me. And if I'm on a stage show, I want to be able to have a blank wall where I can look.
Yes, it's funny you say that, because as a police detective, I want just the opposite. Before I interview a perpetrator or a witness, I want as much information about what happened before I do my interview. So it's such a different concept on both sides. So, my thing is you never want to go into an interview as a detective with no information. Whereas people like yourself and Amy, you want no information, which is how it works for you guys. And that's what makes for a show. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm saying that's what makes for a unique show with us. I mean, there's no other show like ours in the States as far as pairing two people with totally different investigative techniques. So, but and at the end when we come together, it works. So, and Amy gives them a solution instead of just saying, "Listen, your house is haunted. Take care. It was nice talking to you." Yeah.
And that's important because mediumship's about that healing relationship and closure.
Mm-hmm.
One of the thing you were just saying about kind of the difference between what mediums need and what you would need as a detective going into interview, I can totally relate to that in terms of as a social work manager, I will go into a situation and I will absolutely need that evidence. So I need as much information going into an interview with a family as I possibly can have, because that'd be my core evidence.
Right. So you understand both sides of it.
Absolutely. So we're 8 series in, you're looking at, potentially 10 for the Dead Files. Is there anything that's changing with the format of it going forward? Is there anything that you've thought along the way, we need to tweak this or to change it in any way going forward? Or are you happy?
You know what?
Successful as it is?
We've pretty much established. we cut out a lot more interviews than we used to do before that we don't feel is necessary anymore.
Right.
You know, it takes 80 hours of footage to film an episode, and I filmed 70 hours of that, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
To put into 42 to 44 minutes on air. But we've kind of got it down to it's not about the show's format as much as it is about the clients. Our format's never going to change. I'm going to do my investigation the way I do it. Amy's going to do her walk. We're always going to put it with a sketch artist. The thing that changes with us is if you look from season 1 and to the current season that's airing now, you'll see the clients and what they're going through has changed dramatically. Yeah. It's gone from, you know, bump in the night to I'm getting thrown down a flight of stairs.
Yeah.
So I think what happens is our show grew, you know, as far as popularity went, and people realize, all right, we're not out here to make fun of anybody. We're out here to help people. I think a lot more people have, for lack of a better term, came out of the closet and said, you know what, I won't feel embarrassed if Steve and Amy come. So you're getting, now we're getting all these, we have over 8,000 requests for us to come to people's homes and businesses. And, you know, there's still a lot of whack jobs out there that, you know, they're just crazy or they just want to be on TV. So it's hard to weed those out. But we do our best.
Next question, actually, how do you do that? How do you sift through and find out who are legitimately paid?
You know, it was easier early on because we didn't have that many submissions, but now we have so many. We have our whole production team that we go through layers. We'll do an initial phone interview, and then we'll do some background checks on the individuals themselves. Then we'll do the location. You know, if it's an apartment building, we can't go because we need permission from everybody that lives in the building. So there's that aspect of it. You know, the legal problems of us being able to investigate a location. You know, there's a lot to it. And then the other thing is, if there's no stakes involved, if we get a call, some people say, listen, my house is haunted, but they seem to be friendly. We just want to know who it is. Well, you know what? Then you don't need our help. So we dismiss those people. And not because they're not having a problem, but they seem to think it's friendly. So what do you need our help for?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Our thing is, especially if there's kids or elderly involved, we look at those really close.
And how do the information you need in respect to your investigations? Are you able to access information quite easily? I'm sure there'd be, you know, data control there.
Yeah, it takes. I have an assistant named, his name is Josh, who's fantastic. And what it is it takes about 30 days of background work before we even get to the location. You know, pulling deeds, a chain of titles, you know, historic map works, the whole 9 yards. But you really can't get the ball rolling until you start talking to people and talking to the actual clients. We don't like to do too much. I just talk to the clients briefly before we go out there to get a feel for them, but I don't want to get too much information because I want it to be fresh. Yeah. And I don't want them thinking about what they said to me before because I want it to come out of their mouths, you know, spontaneously. I don't want them rehearsing what we talked about.
Yeah. What's the most traumatic experience you've had on the show?
I haven't had any. I don't have any. You know, the police department have had some traumatic experiences, but nothing as far as the dead files goes. For me, it's
in terms
probably
of
the
listening
easiest.
to other people, because it is. I know that you'll be that's
the hard part,
won't you? You're going to be a hardened person, Steve, to hearing people's stories a little bit because you'll be desensitized through all the work you've done in the police department. But when you've got somebody sat opposite you, clearly distressed with what's going on, what's the hardest thing been to hear?
Oh, I mean, I've heard women tell me they were actually physically raped. You know, people that have just, you know, afraid to sleep at night or an entire family sleeping in one room because they're petrified to go anyplace else in the house or be separated from each other. I mean, it's heartbreaking when you hear that stuff. To me, it's like, well, how do you live like this? And then a lot of people financially can't move. Despite what the government's saying in the United States, people are still having a tough time out here. You know, not anybody can just pick up and sell their house and move someplace. But when you see a mother crying because her kid is waking up screaming because there's a bad person in their room, how do you deal with that? Like people ask me what was the hardest thing for me on the job. It wasn't getting shot at. It wasn't 9/11. It wasn't. It was telling a parent or a loved one notification about somebody they love being killed or they died in an accident. That's the hardest part, is telling a notification.
Yeah.
That takes its toll on you. And listening to these people and what they're going through, it's a little. It takes me back to that, because I'm a pretty empathetic guy, and it's hard for me to. I put on a good front because from my background, you have to be strong. You have to be that alpha male. You have to show that you're the one. I'm the one you can talk to. But it does take its toll on me sometimes, listening to these people and what they're suffering through. Everybody's crying. It's hard.
How did you get help from that with when you're in the police department? How you manage stress and trauma?
It's funny. I didn't get any help until just recently. It's funny you mentioned that. 9/11, the 9/11 health program for first responders, the World Trade Center First Responders program, they sent me through psychologists who said I suffered from PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Not from 9/11, but from my background in the military and all the stuff I went through on the police department. So I am actually in therapy now, but I could have used it probably 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just basically coping skills. I don't consider myself a victim and that's the biggest thing, is I don't feel like I am, but apparently I am. And it's just hard for me to say that I'm it's kind of almost like you feel sorry for yourself, and I'm not that guy.
Yeah,
so,
I hear that. So you were serving at the same time as 9/11?
Yeah, I was first responder. I was down there when the buildings came down.
Wow.
So,
and did that support a decision to leave the police, or was that already something you had thought about? Or?
No, not at all. I had no intention of leaving the police department. That happened in 2001. I didn't retire until 2005. And even when I retired, at the time when I retired, I had no intention. I had planned on staying at least another 4 or 5 years. But the police department changed. People were getting promoted over me that didn't deserve to get promoted, and politics. And I'm not.
Yeah.
I can't abide by politics and stuff that goes with it. So I made a decision. One day I just said, what? I'm not having fun anymore. Time to go. And I just left. I didn't even have a job. I just, I was like, what? I did my time. I'm done.
Yeah. And I think that in when you're working for local government and big organisations like that, there does come a time, doesn't there, where you've seen it all and you see the changes, and when it starts to become dangerous in terms of political decision making or drive, then you lose heart, and that's the time to go.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Julie, because the last night on the job, I responded to it was a murder-suicide. A father killed his wife and 3 kids. There was 5 dead bodies in this apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And, I responded. It wasn't my case because obviously next morning I was going down to headquarters and retiring, but I walked in, saw all these dead bodies, young children dead, and I was with this guy, Joe, and I said, all right, let's go to dinner. And we went to dinner, and I'm thinking to myself as I was driving home that night, boy, did I become – I didn't realize how hardened I'd become by all those years on the job and seeing all those dead bodies and dealing with tragedy and people's, what's happened to them. I mean, I just saw 5 dead bodies, 3 of them with children, and my concern was, all right, what are we eating tonight?
Yeah.
So I think, it takes its toll. So when it's time to go, you really should go.
Absolutely. And I think on a daily basis, I have to remind social workers that the reason you're going out to this family is because the child is experiencing a journey or a life that is not necessarily what we would want for them. So the question I ask every time we talk about a child or a family is, what is the child's experience of living in that home? How do you? Because we do become desensitized and we use such jargon terms, no matter what field we're working in, whether, for example, domestic violence, domestic abuse. Well, what does that mean? You know, what is it we're worried about when that happens? And people lose sight of, actually, that's the bit we're worried about. It's not the terminology. The terminology doesn't mean anything. It's about what we mean by it.
Yeah.
And it's only when describing something, people understand the impact it has.
No, I mean, unless you've done it or you understand the field because you're in it, but unless you've worked in that field, nobody at all could really relate to what you've experienced. You know, I can't go talk to a guy that manages a drugstore and even think that he's going to understand anything that I've been through. Or, I mean, he can be empathetic towards it, but unless you've been through it, nobody can really relate to it. So it's, you know, and that's why I think that's why I think people like myself, like I'm a retired detective, I hang out with other retired cops or guys that are, you know, I hang around with those people because they get me.
Yeah.
You know, I love my crew. I love them to death. They're great guys. But they don't get me. They don't know what I've been through. You know, their biggest concern is, oh my God, there's no place good to eat in town. I'm like, are you joking? You know, we used to eat, you know, we're lucky we even ate when I was on the job because we were handling 40, 50 jobs a night. And we did eat. It was a quick bagel or something. These guys are complaining because it's only Applebee's in town. I'm like, Applebee's is a 5-star restaurant where I worked, you know.
Yeah.
So, it's funny, you know, because you know you're doing both. You're doing both sides. You're doing the social work side plus you're doing the medium side. So
yeah,
pretty interesting.
It is interesting, and the two are very separate, and they have to be for all the right reasons because obviously that conflict of interest.
Right.
I couldn't possibly be on stage giving somebody a reading and then find them they're a parent against me in court the next day. It just wouldn't work, and it would. It's not fair on anybody. So yeah, I have to be very mindful about it.
Yeah, it's got to be tough for you. I would imagine it's got to be a little hard.
My drive is in both camps. I love helping people. I love working with people. Very much like yourself, I love kind of collating that hard evidence. I want to know I've got all of that before I make a decision. And I like the when my kids were growing up, they used to say, "We hate arguing with you," and I said, "Why is that?" Because you're like a barrister. They say you have a couple of questions, and those questions will be so loaded that we just fall straight into the trap. And I liken that, I guess, to one of our. I mean, I work with the police quite a lot, so our interview styles are fairly similar. In terms of, we need to get to the evidential fact as quickly as we possibly can. And that's the way it is. But my kids, poor things, they either had me with eyes in the back of my head as a medium, or they had me asking a few very chosen questions that they just dropped themselves every time. Even now, if I one look and they just walk away because they know it's not worth it.
Yeah, well, it's funny because you know, my poor daughter's boyfriend, you know, growing up, I mean, she's 25 now, but you know, guy, you know, kid comes to the house and there I am cleaning my gun, and you know, it's like, you know, what the hell, you know, the poor kid's like, what the hell did I get myself into? And my daughter knew she could never lie to me because I'd see right through it. So, you know, you're right, the poor kids.
To vet those guys, you just need to kind of give them a little wink and nod towards the gun, so you don't have to say a word.
That's it, you know. How are you? That's it.
Yeah. Just tap the barrel. It's funny. Kids. So you've got how many children?
I have one. I have a daughter who's 25. She's getting ready to graduate law school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She's got her mother's brains, my ex-wife's brains, but my attitude, which makes for a scary combination. So.
I've got 3. My eldest is 24, and I've got a 23-year-old girl and an 18, nearly 19-year-old boy is my youngest. So, yeah.
No, see,
All
got a
good.
little tribe there.
Yeah, no youngsters. I could never do that again. I've done my bit.
Yeah, it's funny. Me and my girlfriend, she has an 18-year-old son, and we both talk about no more kids for us. It's our time now.
Yeah, definitely. There comes a time when you just relish that peace and quiet and not having to answer to anybody and just do what you need to do.
Yeah, that's it.
So, whilst we've deviated somewhat from, I suppose, promoting your show, I think it's been great, Steve, to get to know a little bit more about yourself and your values and your beliefs. What's in the future now for you? What is it you're hoping to do next?
As far as the Dead Files goes, I hope we can continue doing the show and helping people. I had a little side project I was doing called Blue Plate, but I'm still waiting to find out if we're going to go forward with that. It was a food show. The thing is with Hollywood, it's just so unpredictable. You never know what is going to happen. It's not like civil service work where you're getting your paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then when you retire, you get your pension. With television work, it's a little scary because it's your hands are in the fate of somebody that doesn't even know you.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's kind of every 6 months when we finish filming, it's like, okay, do I go look for a job or are we coming back? So, but thank God for the fans. I mean, we got Dead File fans are by far the most loyal and dedicated fans on the planet in my book. They're just sweet people that just love our show. They love me and Amy and Matt. And
I think the format of the show is going to be a hit over here. I'd be incredibly surprised if it wasn't absolutely up there, because the format is very different than what we've had over here before.
Well, that's good to hear, because I wasn't sure how our show would be taken in the UK, especially me with my Brooklyn accent. I don't know how that would come across.
A bit like Rocky is listening to Sylvester Stallone angle.
So yeah, I do get a lot of comments from fans on Facebook from the UK, which is nice to hear. They're very receptive. And a lot of them were watching the show before it went on the Really TV station, because it was, it was access on YouTube as well as some other places. But we've had fans, but now it looks like we're going to have a lot more. And I do hope that, UK fans enjoy our show. We seem to be popular. We're real popular in Canada. We're popular in Australia, Germany. People watch us, Sweden. So I hope that it takes off in England. And I'd love to come over to just anywhere in the UK and do an investigation.
That'd be amazing.
That's something. Especially for me. I mean, I have a half sister that my father during World War II was married and had 2 daughters, and I have a half sister that's born in England, but she lives here in the States now, and I have 2 nieces here. But I have a nephew who lives in Liverpool, and I'd love to get over to just to even be able to meet him and then see where my father was, and
absolutely, that's lovely,
stuff.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. Just a lot of history there that in regards to my family alone. So we've been trying, but it's everything's out of out of mine and Amy's hands. So it's we don't own the show. Travel Channel does. Instead, decision on we'll submit 20 cases to them, and they'll tell us which ones we can do.
Yeah.
So that's the. But listen, they're the ones that own the show, so that they have the right to do what they want.
Absolutely. But say, branching out and doing some work in the UK, I'm sure will be well received. And the format of the show, as I said, is spot on. I think there's a real market in the UK right now. There's a gap in the paranormal shows. So I think that will really plug that gap.
Oh, that's great. I'd like to hear some feedback from the fans and see what they think, because it's always hard to judge how other countries are going to take your show, because paranormal shows here are really big. I mean, everybody's into it. There's a million different shows on. Luckily for myself and Amy, there's no other show in the States right now that has our concept. And if they do, if somebody does come out with the concept, we're the ones that originated it. Nobody else has done it this way.
And like I said, there's nothing like that here in the UK. So the most popular programs have been, obviously we had Most Haunted over here for many years, and that was incredibly popular. And now that kind of style of investigation has waned, and there's an opening. So let's hope you fill it.
Well, that's good. I just hope fans over there will reach out and say hi to me, on Facebook and stuff, or even on Twitter. It would be nice just to hear from them and see how they...
How would they contact you on Twitter, Steve? What's your Twitter name?
It's at Steve DiSchiavi. It's just STEVE, Steve. And my last name is spelled DISCHIAV as in Victor I. So it's at Steve DiSchiavi. And there's a picture of me in a suit, pinstripe suit with a tie on. And then the background will have me and Amy. And then my Facebook, I have a public Facebook page. It's Steve DiSchiavi - The Dead Files. And it's the same photo, so you'll know it's me. I can't friend anybody on the public page, but I put all the updates about the show and what's happening with the, where we are and what we're doing. So it's always nice to hear from the fans. I get private message.
Yeah, if they find you on your page, you can't add them because you're up to your maximum followers. So they must look for you under the Dead Files one. Yeah,
they can reach out because I have a private page, but I'm maxed out on the friends I can accept. So
no, you wouldn't. I just couldn't be accepted. I was absolutely devastated.
Well, I'll see if I can dump somebody and I'll put you on there, Julie. Don't worry
that's
about
what I was hoping for. So
I'll take. As soon as we get done, I'll take care of that.
To everyone listening, I thought I'd quickly message Steve today just to say, look, it's me. I'm looking forward to interviewing you this evening. Blah blah blah. So I found the Facebook page and I went to press the friend request, and a message came up saying, "I'm sorry, there's too many followers on this page. Basically, you haven't got a chance." So I messaged Steve to say, I can't add you, but I'm going to be interviewing you, so I just wanted to pop by and say I'm looking forward to it and have a great day. And then I looked at it. I was absolutely horrified and devastated.
Well, I'll make it up to you. There's a few people I'm looking to get rid of anyway, so don't worry about it, Julie. Just I'll look for yours. Send me a friend request and I'll hook it up. So
cool. Okay. Well, I've messaged you on that page, so you'll have to just have a look for the message. Okay.
Yeah.
So
my private page is just my name, and it's got me and my girlfriend as a profile pic. So there's the difference in the two pages. Yep.
Lovely picture. Really nice picture.
Thank you.
Okay, so the interview's coming to an end, and there's so many things I would have loved to ask you, and this is a paranormal channel, but clearly living in the UK and your experiences on 9/11 would have been amazing. It's just your police career would have been another amazing topic that would have filled up much more than an hour show. And then currently you're listed as a special investigator, you've a private investigator and a licensed armed guard, and I could have gone through all those as well.
Yeah, a lot of this, my stuff in the background, I have a private eye license, and I have I have an armed guard. I did a lot of bodyguard work. But right now, I'm just focused on the show. It takes up all of my time. And the only time I get a break from the show, and really I don't, because once we get started to film again, then we still have to vet all the new cases we're going to be doing. So even the little bit of time off I do have, and it's not as much time as I'd like, but I'd rather be working than not. So that's okay.
Absolutely, yeah. So, Steve, I'm going to ask you a really big favour, and I'm doing this on the hop, and of course it will be on the show. So, can I re-interview you again and talk more about some of the episodes of the Dead Files? Would you allow me to do that in the future?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be amazing, because we haven't gone into kind of some of those experiences that you found out, and some of Amy's findings and the correlation between them, and I think that's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, we just had the season premiere last Sunday on the April 2nd that had to do with reincarnation, and it was pretty out there. It was a guy that was actually haunting himself. Basically, it splintered, which I never heard. And apparently, I just saw it for the first time myself. I don't remember the faces I make on the show. And people were sending me messages saying, "Jesus, the faces you were making when Amy came out with that reincarnation thing." I was like, "Wow, myself." Because that was 26 episodes ago. I don't even remember half of the stuff we've done. It's been so long.
Yeah, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed watching the episodes that I did today, and I'm looking forward to watching some more, and definitely the ones that you're bringing out. And I'll certainly be promoting it here in the UK.
I appreciate that. I really do.
Okay, well, it's been a pleasure, Steve. Thank you so much again for allowing me to interview, and I really look forward to the next time.
Me too.
I'm waiting for that friend acceptance to come on my Facebook.
I will take care of that right away.
And I'll be in the UK with pleasure that somebody else has been booted off. No, I won't really.
Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it.
Thanks.
To find out more about our show, guests, or to listen to past shows from our archive, please go to www.houseofmysteryradio.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.